Greetings, my name is Clarastriclus, and in this video I want to briefly go over maps that I think should be added to the multiplayer for Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. As you can see, I'm an S-rated player in the top 100, and I held the most prestigious rank in the game, rank 69 at time of recording. This means that I have a ton of experience with the new maps that were provided in patch 1.05, and I'd like to start this video off by calling out the problems with some of those maps. I am very grateful that From Software added new maps to the game, but I'm holding out hope that if we get an additional batch of maps, there will be a little bit more diversity. The most common theme I see among these maps is that they have these huge wide open skyboxes and little to no vertical cover. While not all the maps I'm going to suggest are going to solve this issue, it is a piece of criticism I'd like you to keep in mind while I go through my list. I'd like to start with a curveball. The first map on my list is the inside of the wall. I think this would be a fun map to add to the game simply because it's present in the initial trailer for the game. I always imagined myself playing the game on this map, and while it's probably not too competitive, I still would like to see it in the random map pool. Probably not ranked though. The next map I'm going to suggest is a bit small, but I really like to see it added to the game just for nostalgia reasons, and that is the arena from Armored Core 2, or the arena that you find in Xylem near the end of the game. This map probably wouldn't be competitive, but I really just want to play my friends on it in casuals, and it gives me a ton of nostalgia, so I hope they add it to the game. But again, I hope this one doesn't make it to ranked. The next map I'd like to call out, and one that I think would be fun in ranked teams, is the BAWS Arsenal number 2. I really love the industrial look and feel of this map, and I think it has an interesting shape that's different from the other maps that are available, as well as being just about the right size for a team game. Furthermore, there are a lot of elevation changes and different pieces of vertical cover on this map, which I think give it a lot of diversity compared to the maps that have been added to the ranked pool for 1v1, so it might even make a good 1v1 map. Proceeding further into this level, there's another map that I think would be interesting, and that's the coral well at the end of the mission. It's actually just another boring box with a huge skybox, but it looks way cooler than the other ones we have, so I want it anyway. Speaking of boring maps that look pretty, I also really want to fight other players at the Gallia Dam, specifically the version where you fight Guazu and Volta. One of the initial gameplay trailers for this game showed the player fighting 3 different ACs on this map, and I've always been looking forward to playing multiplayer on it since that trailer. Sadly we can't, but maybe there's hope for the future. Another map I've wanted to play multiplayer on since the trailers for the game is Lower Grid 86. There's actually so many different areas in this map that are gorgeous and would make great multiplayer maps that it's difficult to choose from. But I think this wide open area we saw in one of the initial gameplay trailers is probably the best one you could pick. There's a lot of interesting geometry here and elevation changes, and it probably has some of the best lighting in the game, so I really hope this one's near the top of From's list. And I sort of expect it is, given how much work they put into it. It's always struck me as very strange that this map is so complex and diverse, and yet the best way to play it in the game is to just run through it as fast as possible. So here's hoping some part of this map gets its time in the sun in the multiplayer. Another area of the game that I think got a ton of development attention and resources, while still only having one multiplayer map in the game, is the run up to Jorgen spaceport. I specifically think this giant bridge would be really fun to play on, but I'm not sure if it's easy for them to remove the jump pads, and I'm really not sure if this map would be worth it. However, this does seem like the exact kind of map they added in the last update, where it's some really obscure reference to part of the game that almost nobody remembers, so who knows, maybe this will end up being prophetic. Speaking of prophetic, here's a called shot. I would bet a very small amount of money that they will add this mine map to the game. From Software just has a thing for these giant, ultra-industrial mines at an unbelievable scale, and I'm frankly pretty shocked that this isn't already a multiplayer map, so I expect we'll see this one in the future. Plus, it looks like it would be kind of a blast. At least there's a little bit of cover in the middle. I can imagine being ratted all over this stupid map, so I'm sure it'll make its way into the game. Another map I think might sneak its way into the game is this circular room where you fight the Nepenthes. From Software seems to have a thing for these big dumb circular maps, and this one's at least a little bit interesting. There's some vertical cover and this big ledge up above. It also kind of reminds me of the arena from Armored Core 2, so maybe I'm biased in wanting this one. Speaking of bias and nostalgia, does this map underground remind anyone else of the Arteria Cranium from Armored Core for Answer? For some reason, it's not that similar, but I just get that old nostalgic memory from this one. I think it also prevents a very interesting dynamic with the division between the upper and lower levels using these weird circular things that exist. What are these? Does anyone know? Anyway, my point is that it would be fun and they should add it. It looks cool. Plus, I think having a map divided top and bottom like this is a really interesting dynamic that none of the other maps in multiplayer currently have, so that's why this one's so high up on my list. Another map with this same interesting dynamic is Grid 135 from the beginning of the game. This one actually feels like it was designed to be a multiplayer map. I'm really surprised it's not already in the multiplayer. It has a very obvious kill box in the center, with small pieces of cover, and 3 areas that you can hide on the peripherals of the map on both the left and right side, and underneath. Plus, unlike the next few, this one's not very spoilery, so I feel like if that's an excuse that From Software want to use, I don't really understand why this one didn't make the cut. Now, one I can understand them holding back for spoiler reasons is this beautiful map of Xylem near the end of the game. Maybe this is just the copium talking, but I really think From Software is holding off some of these endgame maps for more people to have beaten the game before they add them to multiplayer. I mean, they have to be thinking about it right. You imagine fighting in giant mechs. You imagine fighting in a place like this. There are some really beautiful cities at the end of this game, and I really hope that we get to see more of them in the multiplayer eventually. Another gorgeous city map that I think should be in the game is this last section of Institute City. This is another area that feels like it was designed to be a multiplayer map to me. There's a lot of really interesting cover, and there are very diverse segments of this map, so there's a lot of diverse gameplay that can happen here as well. Again, the only excuse I can imagine for not having this map in multiplayer already is that they're waiting for more people to beat the game before they add it. Another gorgeous map that wouldn't be too spoilery is this underground tunnel from Act 3. They might have to segment off some of these little side areas here, as I imagine this would be annoying to chase people through, but in general the map's pretty open, and it's very pretty. I think it would serve as a nice contrast to the maps that currently exist in multiplayer, as they can get kind of samey, and this one really is strikingly different visually. And geometrically as well. There aren't really any weird linear caves like this, so I think this could give players a lot of places to spawn in safety in 3v3, and also it just opens up a lot more of that vertical gameplay that From Software wanted to brag so much about when they were introducing this game. I mean, how sick would it be to dive bomb somebody from up here? Speaking of interesting gameplay, I really want them to add the Xylem engine room as a playable map. This is another map that might not make sense for ranked, as I'm sure it strongly favors CQC builds over others, but man do I want to have a CQC battle on this thing. I would love to dash around all this cover and shoot at another player who's actually thinking rather than all these stupid little NPCs. Plus, a 3v3 on this map would be the most chaotic thing I can possibly imagine. I really want to experience that, and I hope that From Software seriously considers adding this map to the game. This one seems kind of like a pipe dream, but, you know, we got more than I expected from the last patch, so maybe we'll get all of these next patch, right? That's totally how that works, right? However, there's one map I want even more than all of these combined, and that is the downtown area of the Contaminated City. This segment of map is so interesting and diverse that I don't think I would ever get tired of playing on it. I think I could play on this map as the only map in the game, and I wouldn't even be upset. It does have a pretty high skybox, which is maybe a bit of a concern given the current meta of the game, but it also has a lot of vertical cover and a lot of tall horizontal cover as well. It really reminds me of the Xylem map that everyone's so favorable towards, and I think the visual design is a lot better. It's a bit dreary, but it reminds me of the cinematic trailer for Last Raven, which is another one of those iconic kind of areas where I can imagine fighting giant robots. Even if they don't add any of the other maps I suggested in this video, if they add this one, I'll be completely happy with the multiplayer in Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. I can deal with laggy LCBs, PFALs that don't work, players that try to run away from me instead of fighting me, tanks that my double melee rifle build doesn't have a ghost chance in hell to kill, and if I was doing it on this map I'd be happy. So anyway, there's 16 maps the developers could add to the game where the art assets are already done, so here's hoping patch 1.05 isn't the last time we're going to get new maps, and 1.06 brings some even better ones. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please tell me what you thought of my list in the comments. Did you think any of the maps were stupid? Are there any maps in the game that you'd like to see in multiplayer that I missed? And if you want to see any of the same maps that I do, please like the video for visibility, and subscribe if you want me to make more content like this.